Along the northern coastline, where jagged basalt cliffs cut into the endless Atlantic, a single Atlantic puffin, known to local researchers as Narrow Beak, glided low above the water. He expected wind. He expected the rhythmic thunder of waves shattering against stone. He expected the familiar pulse of the sea beneath him. Instead, nothing. The ocean lay flat. Not calm. Not glassy. Flat. Like a sheet of cold metal. Narrowbeak angled his wings and glided closer. Puffins were creatures of waves. They gauged fish by reading the motion beneath the surface, the turbulence that betrayed schools of sand eels. But now the water was motionless. He dipped lower, inches above the surface. Not a single ripple rose to meet him. Even his shadow stayed perfectly still. On top of the cliff, Dr. Runa Haverson, a marine ecologist, squinted through binoculars. "Mikkel," she called to her graduate assistant, "is the wave buoy transmitting?" Mikkel checked the tablet. "Yes. But look at the readings. Wave height, 0.00 meters. Wave period, NA. Surface motion, none detected." Runa frowned deeply. "There's no such thing as perfectly flat ocean. Not here. Not anywhere." Narrowbeak circled again, uneasy. The ocean below him looked dead. No swell, no breath, no heartbeat. He finally descended to the water and tapped the surface with his webbed foot. The ripple spread outward. Slowly. Too slowly. As if the ocean hesitated before deciding whether motion still existed. The cliffs, shaped by centuries of storm and salt, waited in eerie silence. Nothing crashed. Nothing hissed. Nothing broke. Mikkel exhaled nervously. The waves aren't just calm. They've stopped. Narrowbeak turned sharply in the air, wings trembling. The sea had forgotten how to move. By midday, the phenomenon worsened. Flocks of puffins gathered on the cliff ledges, confused. Typically, the colony erupted with activity, birds diving, parents returning with fish, young fledglings testing their wings. But now, they perched quietly, staring at the unmoving sea. Narrowbeak hopped along the basalt edge, peering downward. Even from this height, he could see into the water, unusual clarity caused by absolute stillness. Fish hovered below the surface. Not moving. Not darting. Suspended in place, as though held by invisible threads. Narrowbeak launched into a dive. He pierced the surface. Silence. No splash. No sound. No collapsing waves to swallow him. He knifed through still water, expecting the usual chaos, a rush of bubbles, the muffled roar of diving. But everything was muted, heavy, too slow. He caught a fish easily. Too easily. The animal barely reacted, as if stunned or suspended. When Narrowbeak resurfaced, the ocean surface didn't close properly behind him. Instead, it formed a slow, thick ring that took seconds to settle. On the cliffs, Runa watched with dread. "Mikkel. The water's viscosity is changing." "You mean it's thicker?" "I mean it's behaving like the ocean forgot its own physics." The wind died. The foam evaporated. The tide line froze in place, as if nailed there. A juvenile puffin attempted its first dive. It leapt. But instead of slicing downward, it simply floated, trapped on the surface, unable to break tension. It flapped wildly until adult puffins rushed to help, dragging it toward the rocks. Narrowbeak stood beside the trembling young bird, clicking his beak softly in comfort. The wave still didn't return. The sea remained a silent, gray mirror, reflecting a world that no longer made sense. By late afternoon, even sound began acting strangely. Narrowbeak called out, a sharp, nasal kek-kek-kek. Normally, his call bounced off the rocks, mixed with the roar of the surf, and merged into the chaotic chorus of the colony. Now, it fell flat. Absorbed by the air. It didn't echo across the cliffs. It didn't travel downward to warn birds below. The ocean, still flat as slate, didn't respond with its usual hiss or rumble. Runa tapped the microphone of her hydrophone receiver. Testing. Testing. Silence. Mikkel adjusted the dials. That can't be right. Hydrophone sensitivity is maxed. Runa lowered the sensor deeper into the water. Still silence. Even underwater? Mikkel asked. Especially underwater, she replied. Narrowbeak dove again. This time, he noticed something horrifying. His wings didn't sound right under the surface. No muffled beating. No bubble trails. No underwater acoustics at all. It felt like swimming in thick, soundless fog. He rose quickly, shaken. The cliffs, robbed of their eternal thunder, felt wrong. Distorted. Empty. Mikkel pointed at the tide line. Runa. Has the water level changed at all since sunrise? No. Not a millimeter. You were saying the tide is frozen, Runa whispered. Something has locked the sea in place. Narrowbeak perched on a jagged stone, staring at the unnatural stillness. The ocean wasn't resting. It was waiting. By nightfall, the flat sea became even more disturbing. In the fading light, the ocean surface began to glow faintly, not with bioluminescence, but with reflected moonlight behaving incorrectly. The reflection was sharp, crisp, too defined, like a mirror made of metal. No waves distorted it. Narrowbeak flew low over the water, wings brushing the unnaturally smooth surface. His shadow remained perfectly preserved beneath him. Then something shifted beneath the mirror. Not a creature. Not a wave. A shape. A rising swell. But not at the surface. Deep below, a slow bulge pressed upward, deforming the layers of water without breaking the surface tension. Runa gasped. Mikkel. Are you seeing that? The sonar reading spiked. A large mass was rising, not organic, not mineral, not storm-generated. The deep ocean is pushing upward, Mikkel whispered. But why is the surface membrane holding? Runa murmured. It's like the sea isn't letting anything touch the air. Narrowbeak hovered above the glowing bulge, heart pounding. The bulge grew. Higher. Wider. Closer. Yet the surface didn't break. The sea was rising from within, but refusing to crash. Refusing to release. The underwater mass pressed closer, lifting the entire mirror-like sheet of water upward, like a blister forming on the skin of the ocean. Narrowbeak called in alarm, urging nearby puffins to flee. Some lifted into the air. Others froze, mesmerized. The ocean swelled higher still, and still no wave formed. Runa whispered, it's building pressure. The sea was no longer still. It was restrained. And the restraint was failing. It began with a sound. A deep, resonant hum from beneath the sea, vibrating through the cliffs, through the colony, through Narrowbeak's bones. Puffins panicked, launching into the sky. Even the most seasoned birds struggled against the still air. The hum grew louder. The ocean bulge rose several meters now, grotesquely swollen, yet still refusing to break surface tension. Then, a tiny crack appeared. Not water breaking. Not a splash. A seam. A hairline tear across the mirror surface, running in a jagged path. The hum intensified, vibrating the cliffs. Narrowbeak screamed a warning. Runa shouted, Mikkel, get back. The sea released. All at once. The entire swollen blister collapsed, and a monstrous surge of water erupted upward like a breaking dam. Waves, violent, enormous, finally crashed against the cliffs with the fury of an ocean that had been silent too long. The sound struck like thunder. Puffins tumbled in the air. Cliffs shook. Spray blasted upward in towering plumes. Narrowbeak fought the wind, diving low to avoid the explosion of water. The sea roared. Roared for the first time in a full day. Runa shielded her face, shouting over the chaos. The pressure finally broke. The ocean was holding itself, then it snapped. Mikkel stared at the raging surf. Why did it stop in the first place? Runa didn't answer. Because Narrowbeak, perched on a slick rock, already knew the truth in his instincts. The ocean had not changed on its own. Something had paused it. Something powerful. Something deep. Something that might pause it again. The waves continued to crash with pent-up rage. Narrowbeak shook out his feathers, staring at the horizon. The ocean had remembered itself. But it had not forgotten the stillness. For hours after the ocean's violent release, the cliffs trembled with aftershocks of sound. Waves slammed into the basalt with the ferocity of all the lost momentum suddenly reclaimed. Spray towered high, ragged, uneven, wild. But as dawn approached, something even stranger began to happen. The waves weakened. Not gradually, not with the natural rhythm of tides, but abruptly, like a hand pressed down on the sea. Narrowbeak perched on a ledge, soaked from the night's chaos. His feathers clung to his body, his orange-webbed feet gripped the basalt so tightly that the skin reddened. He stared out at the water with unblinking eyes. The waves slowed. Their peaks rounded. Their troughs shallowed. Their white caps dimmed. Runa and Mikkel stood above the colony, now wide awake, pacing and shuffling nervously. Mikkel checked the wave buoy data. The readings just dropped again. Runa didn't look away from the sea. How much? To less than 1 meter. That can't be right. Runa grabbed the tablet. After a pressure purge like that we should be seeing chaos, storm-like rebounds, reverse swells, residual oscillations, something. But it's already stabilizing the flat water again. Narrowbeak shifted uneasily. The silence creeping toward the shore tasted wrong, thick, metallic, like the air before a storm but without the electricity. He hopped forward and flapped into the air, gliding low above the shallows. No wind tugged at him. No updraft lifted him. His wings felt heavy, unsupported. The ocean's surface flattened beneath him with unnatural speed. The waves were stopping. Again. Runa muttered under her breath, "This isn't atmospheric. This isn't tidal. This isn't geological." Mikkel swallowed. "Then what is it?" Runa said nothing. Because the flattening water told the story itself. Whatever had paused the ocean before, was trying to pause it again. Narrowbeak swooped lower, brushing the tip of his wing along the surface. Stillness. Total stillness. A dead calm spreading outward like frost. He ascended in alarm, calling sharply to the colony. But this time, the puffins did not scatter or flee. They stood perfectly still, watching the sea freeze into unnatural calmness. Birds sensed patterns humans couldn't see. And right now, every puffin could feel the ocean locking again. The cliffs, battered only hours ago, now stood before a motionless horizon. This was not rest. This was not calm. This was restraint, deliberate, unnatural restraint, returning faster than before. And the sea, having just remembered how to roar, was already forgetting again. By midday, the ocean was once again a gray mirror. But this time, something new emerged. Narrowbeak sat on a wet rock, staring into the still water below. Fish hovered motionless again, suspended in a soundless world. The tide line froze once more, a perfect static engraving along the cliffs. Yet the surface behaved differently. It hummed. At first, Narrowbeak thought it was his own heartbeat echoing through his chest from exhaustion. But the vibration grew stronger, more distinct, radiating outward in concentric waves that didn't disturb the water's shape. A hum without ripples. A voice without sound. Under the cliffs, Runa and Mikkel activated the hydrophone again. Mikkel frowned. "We're reading something." "What?" Runa asked sharply. "Vibrational frequencies in the deepwater column." "From currents?" "No. From still water." Runa stiffened. "Play it." Mikkel connected the signal to the small speaker. At first, the soundscape was empty, the same dead silence as before. Then the hum appeared. Low. Steady. Pulsing at precise intervals. Like a heartbeat. Like a signal. Runa's eyes widened. This isn't geological. This is patterned. Narrowbeak jerked his head sharply, he felt the pulse through the rock. Each vibration traveled up the cliff face, into the colony, through his bones. The ocean was communicating. Not with sound, but with pressure. The mirror's surface bulged again. Not as violently as last time, smaller, controlled, deliberate. Mikkel gasped. It's rising again. But this time, the surface didn't fracture. It swelled, then relaxed, then swelled again, like breathing. Runa whispered, horrified, the ocean is testing boundaries. Narrowbeak fluttered into the air, circling above the swelling patch. The water beneath him distorted slightly, not breaking the surface tension, but warping it like stretched fabric. The hum intensified. Then, abruptly, it stopped. All at once. The swell fell silent. The surface froze. The pressure vanished. Narrowbeak hovered for a moment, expecting another surge. But the ocean lay still. Too still. Runa whispered, it paused itself. Completely. As if observing the result. Mikkel swallowed hard. Observing us? Narrowbeak's wings trembled as he landed beside the colony. He looked out across the gray, perfect water, not natural, not calm. Listening. Breathing. Thinking. The ocean had spoken. Not with waves. Not with storms. But with silence. And now, waiting motionless beneath the cliffs, it was listening for an answer,